our new web.
Oh, is the one from last week up?
Well,
Last 2 weeks?
Last week, yeah.
I meant 2 weeks ago. Whenever it's up, just if you could let me know, because I wasn't able to join, and it's the one I really wanted to be on.
it was a really good. It was pretty good. We're not
You
going
know,
to keep
and
you that
I-
long this today. We were.
Yeah,
These are supposed to be half hour, and they went up like an hour and a quarter. So,
yeah.
but well, we do we do
Mike.
like to. Yes.
Thank you, Mike. Do you have the one from last week, the one that was after the listening session, or do you all not have that one?
We don't have that, do we? We don't have that.
I don't
And
think that one worked. No.
we don't. And that was a pretty good one too. It really,
Other than the notes.
we have the notes, but not the recording.
You don't have the presentation that was made.
No,
Yeah.
no. And that was good. That was a good one. You know, you never, and I think it was just one of those things where the recording didn't work. We're just getting started or trying to figure out how it worked. And it was basically user error, which was us. So,
but this one is being recorded.
This one is. Well, we like to start out with, and these first several Zooms that we're doing, we used to do this on telephone. We like to introduce everyone, and then we will have them, and we'll be able to post them moving forward, in addition to post-session notes. So I'll go left to right, and Steve, do you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. Hi, everyone. My name's Steve Fenton. I work with HMTRI with Mike, and good to see everyone.
And Mike Senyo, facilitator today with HMTRI, and Abby. Do you want to introduce yourself?
I'm Abby. I work for Auberly in McKeesport, Pennsylvania, and we are now a 3-time grantee. It's exciting news.
Congratulations. Diana?
Hi, everyone. I'm Diana Napier, and I'm with the Workforce Development Board, the workplace. We've had a number of these grants, and I'm newbie on this project, but enjoying it so far.
Fantastic. Tim?
Hello, I'm Tim McCarthy. Just started with Push Buffalo here in Buffalo, New York. Manager of workforce and staffing, and I'm looking forward to it. This is my first call, so thanks for the invite, and I appreciate it.
Well, welcome to the club. These are not like your normal Zooms. We're very, very informal. And the reason we're informal is we find that the job training program relies a lot on networking and finding out what other people are doing. We've got lots of different models and lots of different types of programs, and they all work in different ways. So we found that if we could do face-to-face or some sort of, this is the best we can do in terms of face-to-face. We like to be as informal as we can and try to get some ideas we could take back with us. So that's kind of our approach. It's kind of disorganized, but on purpose. So I'm going to go with Nolan next. Hey, Nolan.
Hi, hello. I've been working with Mike and Steve for, I guess, a little over 20 years, doing brownfields, environmental justice, and job development. I used to work as a contractor to the Department of Energy. So a lot of my background comes from working at the Department of Energy sites, as well as some private industry background prior to that.
Shante, our guest speaker today.
Hi, everyone. Shantae Vincent, West End Neighborhood House. And we've had our grant now for a good amount of years as well. I want to say a couple of years. And I became a coordinator for the EPA program about 6 months ago.
Thank you. Andrea.
Hi, everyone. Andrea Fobbs. I am a work readiness instructor / college professor for the whole program.
Good. Welcome. Stephanie.
Sorry, I had my stuff off. Hi, I'm Stephanie Shannon with the EPA Brownfields program in Region 8, and we don't have too many job training grants, and so I'm trying to just learn and kind of figure out who to coordinate with here to try to get some more in our region.
Good, that's us. We're doing some regional panels so we can get some people to apply for grants. So we'll get you some grantees to apply next year. Yay.
Great.
Linda.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. I am Linda Morgan. I am the Brownfields Job Training Coordinator for Region 5.
And Shan?
Sorry, yes, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Shan Robertson. I'm the project manager for our environmental workforce development program with the city of East Point in Georgia.
Great, thank you. And Dwight, you got your, hopefully you got your audio going.
Yeah, good afternoon, everyone. Dwight Bridge, City of Little Rock. We're trying to get an opportunity to get some grants. I'm sorry we're late. We had a little inclement weather. We was released from work, so we had just not getting home and getting situated.
Ooh, what kind of, hopefully it's not tornadoes.
No, it's ice.
Oh,
Oh,
ooh. We're not, well, we're glad we're not in Little Rock today. That's nasty. Now we do have someone that phoned in, 585. Are you, do you want to introduce yourself?
Can you hear me, Mike? This is
Yes, we
Angela
can.
from Pathstone.
Hey, Angela.
I had a little Zoom problem today, so here I am by phone in the old way. But we have a job training program in Puerto Rico, and we're starting our 4th one in this cycle.
Fantastic.
And we're excited to be here. Welcome to all the newbies. You'll love this call.
Pathstone is great. They've done some really good work in Puerto Rico under a real difficult situation. And Angela worked through that hurricane, destroyed the island. It's amazing. We're going to have you on. So later in the PLC session, we'll have you come and talk to us about your experiences. Well, that's good. Thank you, everybody. And if someone joins in, we can introduce them later. We always start out pretty much the same. News from Washington, news from EPA and some of our partners. Steve, you want to give us insight on what's going on?
sure, Mike. Glad to do it. And you folks will notice sometimes we repeat things. If you've been to the last PLC, sometimes there's new folks that come in, so we do repeat a few items because they're of interest generally. The first one is we want to congratulate those 19 communities who received the Brownfield Job Training Grant. There's a couple on this call. Congratulations to you. And then a special shout out to the new ones, the really new ones, the Heartland Conservation Alliance in Missouri, Labor's Local 17 Training and Education Fund in New York, the Pioneer Bay Community and Development Corporation here in Florida, and the Cheyenne and Arapaho tribes in Oklahoma. Now, the Coalfield Development Corporation was awarded a grant. Now, they were a grant many, many years ago, and so they were awarded one again this time. So again, shout out and congratulations to all of you. Also, the EPA is also anticipating having funding to award between 25 and 30 grants to job training entities beginning in fiscal year 2023. And the application guidelines will be available sometime in the spring or summer of 2022. And we'll let you know just as soon as we know. That's a pretty significant number, 25 to 30 possible new grantees. Also want to thank everyone who participated in the listening session. I think that was 2 weeks ago, right before our PLC 2 weeks ago. There's 2 more listening sessions we wanted to let you know about today. One is for the Multi-Purpose Assessment and Cleanup Grant Program. They are having a listening session on March 10th from 12 to 2 p.m. Eastern Time. And then the very next day, same time, from 12 to 2 on March 11th, they're going to have a listening session on the Revolving Loan Fund Grant Program. So some of you may or may not be, interested in attending those, or know of someone in your organizations or complementary organizations that may be interested in attending. This is an opportunity to provide feedback to EPA. So I encourage you to consider attending that. Also, this is just that reminder of the Brownfields 2022 that is still scheduled for August 16th through 19th, 2022 in Oklahoma City. And registration and housing for this conference will be open in April, and we're in our last week of February. So before you know it, that registration for and housing will be available to start getting your reservations locked in. Also, two tools we want to tell you about. On February 18th, the White House Council on Environmental Quality, CEQ, released a beta version of the Climate and Economic Justice Screening Tool. It's the acronym is CEJST, CJST. And then there's also the EJ Screen. Just to cover those just briefly, and we're going to spend much more time on these later. But the EJ Screen tool, which is widely used by federal agencies for a broad array of screening, outreach, and analytical purposes. The EJ Screen from EPA and the Climate and Economic Justice Screening Tool issued by the White House, the one I just referred to, they basically complement each other. The former provides a tool to screen for potential disproportionate environmental burdens and harms at the community level, and the latter defines and maps disadvantaged communities for the purpose of informing how federal agencies guide the benefits of certain programs, including through the Justice 40 initiative. So there's this beta screening tool. I have a link that I'm going to drop in after I'm done here in case you're interested to take a look at it. Again, we'll be talking more about these two tools later on. And also two other dates of note. One is we're still planning on doing a mid-year virtual networking workshop May 4th, similar to the one we did on November 17th. That was pretty well received by the folks who attended. We'll have more information on that as we get it. But that date is the date we have selected and proposed to EPA. So once we get confirmation on that, we'll be sending out a registration form for you. And then we're also planning on going face-to-face for the all grantee meeting this year. Basically, it's the 11th through the 14th, and we'll be in Alexandria, Virginia. And if you haven't attended one of those before, they're fantastic. And we haven't had a face-to-face one now for a couple of years. So this will be, we're looking forward to attending that face-to-face and seeing all of you in person. Two other pieces of information for you. One is Region 6 is having a job training panel March 1st at 1 p.m. Central Time. And basically, they're going to have a discussion on the environmental job training program in Region 6 and give you an opportunity to participate in that. Mike is going to be representing HMTRI at that workshop. Again, that's March 1st at 1 p.m. I will also put the link up to that when I'm done here, in case you're interested in attending, because I think they want folks to attend. So even if you're outside of Region 6, I think you're welcome to attend. And then lastly, the Greatest Institute that I referred to at the last PLC meeting, the registration deadline is February 28th. And this is a 10-day train the trainer program. It's really fantastic. It'll be May 9th through the 20th in Bettendorf, Iowa. And it will include training on the 40-hour waste site worker, the 24-hour industrial emergency response, some DOT awareness, confined space, hazard awareness, and disaster site worker. So there's a lot of different types of curriculum. Again, it's basically for trainers, but what's fantastic is it's no cost to you. The organization, PETE, the Partnership of Environmental Technology Education, they have a grant from NIEHS to be able to offer this. So the training is at no cost to you. They also take care of a lot of the travel, lodging, meals, quite a bit of it. So you get free training. You're able to attend and have your expenses taken care of. And you get a lot of curriculum you can walk out the door with you, training materials, PowerPoint presentations, and a network of fantastic trainers, peers that you can collaborate with or ask questions. If you run into a training situation, you're not sure how to handle it. I mean, it's a great network of trainers. So this, again, the application is due February 28th. I know we have a couple of folks in the EPA program who've already applied. So I was just at a meeting with these folks today, and they said to please encourage anyone who's interested in attending. I will drop that information in the chat box when I'm done here also, so you can have a link to it. So with that, Mike, I think that's about all there is for the news.
And thank you. And all of this is in the notes that we send out Friday afternoon. So you don't have to worry about jotting. You could take those email addresses and copy and paste them, but they'll also be in the notes that we send out, which we send out after every PLC. So the beautiful thing, and we're going to be talking about Justice 40 later. We've talked about it previously. In previous PLCs, we're going to be talking about Justice 40, and of course the beta version of the CJS model. That's the White House model, and then the new release of the EJ screen, which is the EPA model. You could say, do they conflict? Do they complement each other? On the call the other day, they made great emphasis. This is the Office of Environmental Justice, made sure that really the CJS model is to address Justice 40. It's not necessarily a tool that we might use when we're developing our grants, but we'll get closer to that when the RFA comes out. The EJ screen tool, of course, they were interested in applicants using that, and it's hard data. They're both GIS oriented, and I'll have the links to those tools. And I would suggest just going into the tool and put your zip code in, and there's a lot of information. I mean, there's all kinds of information on indicators, on the demographics. You may have heard in the news that the White House version is being very careful not to include race in their model. The EPA tool does have in their demographic section a section on race, and this was more of a political thing. They were concerned that there might be in the White House model concerns about that, but there's been a certain amount of blowback from people like Bob Bullard, who said, no, it really does need to be in consideration when you're considering underserved places where there have been middle class communities and they've built a highway right through them, or they've located a transfer station right there, and you can't explain it purely because of economics. So this is something you may hear in the news. I understand the news has had quite a bit lately on Justice 40 and about the White House model. The EPA model, which has been around since 2015, there hasn't been really any controversy over that. It's basically data model. Here's the data. It's kind of heavily oriented towards air, but whatever they can get data that's consistent across the country, they put it in that EJ screen tool, and it's a great tool. And like I say, put your zip code in there when you go, click on the model, and we could read a little bit about it. Put your zip code in, and it'd be a good starter to get oriented on how EJ screen works. And you may be using it when you apply for either a re-up on your grant or a new grant. So get used to it and see what it's about. It's got some incredible information when you start talking about doing a community assessment, and it would give you all the information you need to do a pretty good cursory view from a desktop of the communities that might be in your target area. So, but again, that'll be, we'll talk about that as we get closer to the RFA and Justice 40 as that approaches. Today, we're going to have Shantae Vincent on, and it's interesting. There are about 6 different models of job training programs, and you probably all kind of know what kind of model there are. They're the standalone models, that these are standalone job training programs. It might be part of a county, a city, a state program, but it's pretty much a standalone. It might be with a community college, or that the county has applied for the grant and received it, and then the organization is implementing it pretty much. Then there's the tech type models, the OAI types, the limitless vistas, to some extent the Santa Fe model. These are highly technical programs, and these types of grant programs intermix with each other and overlap, but it's just a way of kind of categorizing them into different types of model, and they're all good and they all work and they've all been successful. And you'll probably, after I read these, you'll probably say, oh, I fit into that kind of that model. They're all different ways of developing your social services, your leverage services, and your partnerships. Then there's the social enterprise model, the recycle force, the coal fields, where they're social enterprises. They've got people coming in, working part-time, they're training. There's a combination, they're producing product. Coal fields is amazing in that sense. The recycle force is amazing. They're putting people to work right out of after they've been released from incarceration. Coal fields is in the worst, the difficult part of the country where the coal fields dried up, and they're located right in the middle of that. They went from very high paying jobs to no jobs and no industry. And they're trying to develop industry there, and they've developed social enterprise, and they're a new grantee after not being a grantee for a few years. Then there's the type of program that we're going to hear from Shantae today. It's part of a larger program, social services type program. Auberly, that Abby belongs to, West End. These are excellent organizations because they've got all of the services, the wraparound services that EPA will not or cannot support, built there. They're right there. They've got the leverage support, they've got the infrastructure already in place, and they have a training component, and they're able to fit the job training program, slip it right into that program to make everything better in terms of the program. They can now offer not only wraparound services, but employment opportunities. And those are very successful. We've got several of those. And then we've got those that are part of the WIB. It's kind of a little similar to the one I just mentioned of social service organizations, where it's actually the WIB who applies for the grant. And they also have access to all sorts of, it may not be in the same house, but they have access to all the wraparound services from different other governmental organizations and nonprofits. And those work well too. They're the Workforce Investment Board, or some call it the One Stops. It's a Department of Labor program. And then there's the community college types or universities, where you've got a university or a community college. Santa Fe is a good example, where they may have a 4-credit program. They may not. They may be just getting started, and they do an extramural program out of sometimes business and industry, and they start with the job training program and they grow it. And so you all probably could put your own programs, or the kind you're thinking of, into one of these categories, or a combination of them, and they all work. And that's the beautiful thing about this program. And we like to encourage all of those, whether you're standalone, you're with a community college, you're a WIB, you're a city governmental organization, or a social services, or an entrepreneurial organization. As long as you're a nonprofit or governmental organization, you're certainly welcome into this program. And as I say, we've had successful programs in every one of these types. There's not one size that really works, which is one of the good things about this program. So with that, I'm going to turn to Shantae, and as I said, she's in one of those programs like Abby's that provides everything. And fortunately for people who come across their program, whatever the situation is, she can help, and they're getting they have a very solid environmental program. So with that, I'm just going to turn it over to Shanti.
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Michael. I appreciate it. And everyone, good afternoon. So so I'm doing a presentation here for the West End Neighborhood House Environmental Training Program. I'm going to go ahead on and share my screen just so you guys can see our program guide, and also, like Mr. Michael said, all of the offerings that West End Neighborhood House has to offer for the wraparound services for employment as well. So let me give you 1 second. Sure. Okay, so, all right, so our 4 to 5 weeks environmental training program course offers employment opportunities in careers that reduce environmental contamination and provide more sustainable futures for the community. Trainees learn how natural environments function and how humans can manage behavior and ecosystems to live sustainably. Graduates of the program move on into the industries where they reduce emissions, waste, and wastewater, and minimize energy and resource consumption to protect human health and the environment. So for us, we have the certifications. We give over 12 certifications for the environment training field. So for our participants, they're kind of either able to go definitely to the all the way into environmental, or kind of tiptoe as well into either day laborers or working in construction a little bit, but they have a little bit of best of both worlds. Plus, some of our programs also offer you an ability to be able to be your own entrepreneur. So pretty much start your own business as an asbestos worker or lead abatement workers. But so we give you all of these tools. So let me just go over a little bit the 12 certifications. So as we all know, we give the OSHA 10, General Construction Safety, OSHA 40, which is your Hazardous Materials Technician, OSHA Confined Space, Aerial Lift and Mobile Scaffolding, Scissors Lift, Mobile Mold Remediation, Intrusion, Lead RRP, Forklift Operator, Asbestos Worker, Lockout, Tagout, Soil Sampling, and Bloodborne Pathogens. So we have about a 4-week program where we, at the beginning of the program, we're able to offer them the hard and soft skills that most trainings really don't give you. As well as at the end of your program, you have a whole kit put together, which gives you all of your certifications all in one, as well as your resume. So while they're in the program, if we're able to do so, we have a job training, like a job career fair right in the middle of the program, where the participants are actually able to speak with the employers that they may be interested in. And we also bring the employers in for hands-on workshops so they can also feel the students, gain rapport, find out whether or not they would like to kind of go with them for a little while. So with that being said, it kind of goes with our work readiness workshops. During the time that they're getting their training for the 4 to 5 weeks, they're actually also in workshops, building again that rapport with individuals, learning communication skills, work resiliency, effective communication, and being able to kind of maneuver away from some of the barriers that they may have had in the past. So again, with this 4 to 5 week training, of course, we're able to pretty much see what their capabilities of them are and what they're able to produce out in the work field. So then that's when we move into our next phase, which is the job placement assistance. So luckily here at West End, we're actually able to offer our students a 1 month, which is a 30-day internship opportunity to work with an employer of their choice at $17 an hour. So again, in the very beginning, we're able to give our participants the opportunities to, again, be self-sufficient and to get all of these certifications and go right out into the workforce in order to be able to do what they needed to do, as well as help sustain for themselves and look for a better future. So between that 5th and I guess all the way out into a year, because we have placement and communication with our students for 1 year after they finish the program, we're able to find out where they are in the industry, find out if they need help or services, kind of help them with any barriers if they come up with anything. So for instance, if a student was about to get ready to go to work and they needed a pair of boots, or they needed to be able to get the tools that they needed, we're able to kind of jump in and give them that assistance, as well as helping them with travel as far as like either getting back and forth with a bus card or with Uber passes. We've also teamed up with several organizations that would actually give them a ride to work. And something that DART has done here, which is called Get a Job, Get a Ride, which would actually give you a free ride for a month to get back and forth to work. So again, all of the services that we have to offer here, as well as the services that other constituents that we are with have to offer. We work alongside with a lot of the other environmental. So one of our environmental companies, one of our biggest companies that likes to hire up our students, and luckily our last wages were $17 an hour or higher for most of them. They went into Clean Harbors, which is they always come out, they're always very friendly. They engage with our students on a one-to-one basis. We give them opportunities to do Zoom with them, talk it over with them for at least 2 weeks to find out if this would be a good fit for them. Our last cohort went out with them. We have about 3 to 4 of them placed with them right now, and they love their job. 2 of them are stationed right now in Massachusetts on some excursion out there. And one of them actually just contacted me today saying he worked a 12-hour shift and that he was tired, but he's happy with what he's doing. So again, giving everyone all of the services and all of the capabilities to go out there and live a sustainable life. So again, just a little bit about West End. This is our Education and Employment Center, where again, we hold very truly to all of the things that we are: success, persistence, ambition, happiness. And we're able to offer our students and constituents programs that are able to help them with work readiness, GED preparation, adult literacy and career, and a lot of other services that we actually don't even have here on our program guide. So at the West End Neighborhood House, in its whole house in its entirety, we're able to help with food pantry services, WIC, food stamps, housing, just in case people are hitting any of the barriers that may keep them employed or underemployed for a long amounts of time. And again, helping them to be able to get over the barriers and increase their resiliency in the workforce. Does anyone have any questions?
I like that. I really like that idea of bringing employers in halfway through the program. Too many people think, okay, they're going to graduate in 2 weeks, or I need to bring employers. And you're doing exactly the right thing. You're bringing them in so they could mingle with the students way before graduation, and they can bond with the program. It sounds like you're also bringing in employers so they could bond with the program.
Yes, most definitely bonding with the program and having that cohesiveness for the community that we serve. So again, that also goes back to our internship, where we're able to send, once they're trained and they get their certifications from the state, we work very closely with who they may go on their internship with. So the majority of the time, they're the local businesses that are here working with asbestos or working in the confined spaces that's able to utilize our students, and we're able to pay their wage for them for that month. So they see if they're a good fit, if they like it there, if it's good for them and their family. And then if it's not, then majority of the time at this point, we've had 100% with everyone actually liking where they are. So we haven't had to move anyone out of where they may have interned from.
That is fantastic. How did you pull off the 30-day internship? That is pretty neat. $17 an hour. Is that because of West End, the clout that West End might have in the community?
I'm gonna go with you see me smiling right now, it's probably a whole lot of head nodding and smiling and saying, can we please, would you like us to please do this? And definitely being able to connect with our community as well. Even before I touched bases with the program, we had a very good rapport with the community and a lot of employers from past cohorts. So they know that we're training the students in a way that they would want their employers to be. And again, a lot of them actually end up staying with a good amount of their companies and becoming like supervisors and other things like that.
I had a question about was it DART program, Get a Job and Get a Ride? Is that correct, DART? And is that a private group, or is that part of your program?
So no, not part of our program. DART is actually DART First State. That's our bus system here in Delaware.
Gotcha.
So DART just implemented a program, and they will pay for you to be able to get back and forth to work for 1 month.
Awesome.
Yeah,
Thanks.
you're welcome.
You would be surprised at how many public transportation and Uber programs provide transportation. Some we've seen will do to and from training. Some will do graduates for 30 days or some amount of time. And all you have to do is ask, which is amazing that people don't. But, and that's one of the big constraints is if you're located on the east side of town, and this goes back to choosing your target community. If your training facilities on the east side and it's on the west side is where everybody's coming from, you've got a real issue with retention, which we talk about at a later date. But exactly.
So thank you very much. If no one else has any questions, I can actually drop my information in the chat, and please definitely follow Weston Neighborhood House. And here's all our social medias, TikToks and everything. Have a nice day.
Thank you, Shantae. As I said, we've got several models, and this is certainly one that works. It's kind of, I kind of liken it, the analogies of adding a caboose onto a moving train. A WIB approach is similar, but that doesn't take away from all the other types of programs where programs develop very strong partnerships for wraparound services, and they seem to be able to do that very well. We've had many long-term programs that they're getting assistance from all different places. Recycle Force is a good example. When, as I recall in Ken's presentation, they're bringing lunches to work. They're providing transportation. The parole board is coming to them rather than having to go to the parole board. The legal services are coming to them. In the case of those types of programs, that's a combination of a social enterprise and a standalone where they have this training facility, recycle facility, but they have people, they have developed the partnerships that are required to do this project, and they're coming to them. And it's very doable, just very doable. But certainly Shantae and Abby and several others have a model that works equally well. Any other questions?
I just wanted.
I just have a comment.
Oh,
I'm sorry.
Why don't we go one at a time? Okay, go Ken. We were just talking about you. Why don't you start, and then we'll go to Andrea.
Okay, well, thanks, Andrea. I usually let ladies go first, but thanks anyway, Mike. Certainly, Shantae has a good program. They have a good program down in Delaware, and I just wanted to make a comment on the wraparound services that they provide, which you know, will lead us to try to do the same thing. I like the get a job, get a ride. That is one of the challenges that our participants have, is getting to and from the workplace.
Mm-hmm.
I like that. And I also want to give a comment on the internship. You know, even though we're a social enterprise and we provide employment when they first get out of incarceration, the internship, I mean, our job is to move them on to a more sustainable employer. And the internship is very intriguing. And when we bring our employers to the table, I think we need to strongly consider internships, because that's what they're doing anyway when they check them out for 30, 60, or 90 days. But if we be more specific to include internship into our model, I think it would be more attractive. So anyway, thanks for sharing, Shantae.
Hey, Andrea.
Hey, I just wanted to, number one, applaud Shantae. Incredible presentation. I think it also is, this is just to cheer us all up too. It reminds us of the reason why we do what we do. And, you know, at the whole program, our program is always, it's somewhat similar, how we try to even afterwards to extend the bridge. And that's what I call it, extend the bridge. And so it's nice when you see other programs do these services, but then how do you sustain it? So, you know, when you keep thinking outside the box of how do we get them back and forth to work? How do we encourage them? That also helps with retention and referrals. And so what we started doing at the whole program is we started inviting companies to come in and speak during our training, because then that also helps encourage people along the way that, hey, let's look at the jobs that are out there, because it's not just about construction or maintenance. What we're trying to do is introduce them to the green infrastructure. So it's constantly growing. But I love the fact that when you see other organizations saying, hey, we can offer so much more, like, I'm just so happy right now. Like, I'm really, really happy, because we're all community based, but we're all community servants. So I just wanted to say bravo.
Hello?
Nolan? Oops.
Yeah, I wanted to say great job, Shantae. Very, very nicely structured program. One comment on internships that I'm pretty sure most of you are already doing, but it's helpful if you define or help define your expectations for an internship project. So different employers have different ideas when they get the internship of what they have them do or not do. And so sometimes you can help structure that so they get a variety of experiences or specific experiences or projects that are not simply add-ons as kind of a gopher, you know, in a company setting. And then the other part is to help design either a capstone or an end of term presentation. So at the end of the internship, what did your student learn? What did they get out of the internship? And whether that's a kind of capstone project or whether that's kind of a brief presentation that they give back to you and to the employer. And then the last part is a debrief of the employer. So the internship may or may not be successful. It may or may not lead to a job, but it's very important that you circle back with that employer about their experience with your intern to help you strengthen your program so that you're feeding those employers the best candidates for the internships and making sure that there's something in it for the employer as well as for the intern that you're sending them.
Dwight, did you have your hand raised?
Yeah, I also wanted to piggyback on the Chantain's program too. It's an awesome program. I wish we could model a program like that down here in Little Rock. I was going to ask her, how did you go about doing the recruitment part of the individuals that's in prison or on probation or parole?
So we actually recruit very heavily with the Department of Justice, as well as a good amount of recidivism programs here in the city. Of course, because of where we are located and who we are, we have specialized services and funnels straight into our social services areas. Pretty much all of Delaware social services we're able to tap into. So a lot of the times they pretty much push all our programs for us. So we're like a funnel for them. Oh, you're here, what you need this, well, you need a job. Well, you should probably contact Weston because they have what you need right now. So they'll come to us. We have open houses once a week for our program. So it's a rolling program that brings you in and then we finalize it usually within a month or so. So we can have pretty large cohorts or enough to where we know we can train. I know when COVID came in, it pushed us back a little bit to having smaller cohorts as to the larger ones, but we're actually trying to increase our cohorts again so we can get more people trained and out into the workforce a little bit more.
Keep up the good work. I'm most definitely gonna be reaching out to you.
Thank you, definitely.
Because like one guy said that there's a lot of construction jobs, but you got to give them other options too, especially with the green economy, and that's what we're trying to do. You get construction jobs, you get warehouse work, but you don't have that opportunity for them to see something different.
Yes.
Thank you again for your presentation.
Thank you.
Mike, I think your speaker's off.
There we go.
There you are.
We'll just sit here, and if there's no other questions, we'll end for this week. But thank you for the presentation. And you've got a really deep program, and I have a feeling there's a lot more below the surface that we'd like to find out about, particularly your work with ex-offenders and your recidivists and trying to get them permanent jobs. But it's a great program. Keep it up.
And Nolan, good comments. So those are some, good ideas.
Right.
Really
Thanks.
good ideas.
I have a off topic, as I usually do. In the sort of overview, and this is about, I'll call it looking forward to endemic COVID. And so having just recovered from COVID, I'm happy to share that I'm doing fine. I had a very mild case. You don't want it. You don't want your friends or even your not friends to have it. But the bottom line is it's with us in our society. On a legal front, there's been a lot of movement with respect to the federal courts and the appeals courts as to who has the ability to mandate or not mandate either vaccines or mask wearing. The federal government has recently come out that they are no longer able to mandate vaccines and masks for federal employees. You have a lot of private employees on federal sites where it's been up to that employer to determine what they're doing. But you need to be aware that each state and county is different. And there are several state legislatures that are moving towards legislation that would actually ban private corporations or companies from having vaccine or mask mandates. So these are moving. Most of them are not out of committee, but I would, since it's different everywhere, I don't have a blanket statement other than to try to keep one antenna up for any news about that, because at the end of the day, we need to teach employees that the workers are responsible for their safety. So the companies may or may not have policies, the locality or the government may or may not have policies, but at the end of the day, workers are responsible for their own health and safety, and they will be confronted with some very difficult choices, no matter which side of the political spectrum you're on in terms of what they do and what the people around them are doing. And so, again, I would just say, find a way to get in touch with your state legislatures just to see if they have anything coming down the pike in that area, because it will affect how different companies create COVID policies, whether that's vaccine, mask, or simply how coworkers work together and mingle.
Well, it does go for several issues that our grantees are facing: drug testing, drug use, COVID vaccinations. They're all very, very local. In some cases, people will accept people who test positive for drugs. Some don't test for drugs. Many says you can't graduate unless you've passed the drug test. There are all of those variables that are highly dependent on the very local conditions of know your employers. But that's a very good point, Nolan. It is somewhat a responsibility of the grantee to make sure that that student graduate goes to a safe working environment. You do not want to send someone into an environment where they're going to get hurt or they're unsafe practices, because that'll come back to haunt you. And I think that's a number one rule of know your employers. It's not the fact that they offer someone a job it's not a slam dunk that he's going to be necessarily reputable or the one you want, particularly if you don't know him. So definitely, and that's one nice thing about programs that get to know their employers and they're bonding with the program. You get to know what kind of people you're dealing with and what kind of safety practices they have, to make sure that your students are going to a safe environment.
Right, but also a lot of that onus needs to also be with that student, that potential worker, because they can better recognize the safety issues that they've been trained towards, but they have to make personal decisions with respect to how much risk they're willing to take on for a paycheck. And so I'm not the judge of what that is, but everyone has to make their own personal decision about what they're willing to, you know, how much risk they're willing to assume with respect to the work they're doing or the workplace they're in.
Good point. Good point. Well, I think our half hour is up. So why don't we reconvene in 2 weeks, March 9th, and you all have a good 2 weeks. Any last questions or words for us? Okay.
Mike, I just dropped all of those links in on the chat. They would have to
Great.
scroll back up if they want to grab them. And that's
Okay.
the beta climate tool and the information on the
Great.
Region 6
Okay.
Zoom meeting, the Greatest Institute, and the multi-purpose assessment cleanup listening session along with the
Okay.
revolving loan fund. Those links are all up there.
Great. Okay. Well, thanks everybody, and have a good 2 weeks.
Thank you all.
All right, good
See
job.
y'all.
Thank you.
Good job, Shante.
Thank you.
All right,
Good
thanks.
job.
I looked you up when I'm in Wilmington, Delaware, Shante. Thanks a lot.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Have a great 2 weeks.
All right,
Shante,
you
she's
too.
gone.
Mike, I'm going to go ahead and hit the record button, pause or
Okay.
stop. I guess
Good.
it's stop, right? Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
stop recording. Okay.